Look, obviously, close game, a hard-fought game. Both teams, did a lot of things well. I'm sure both teams, when we look at the film, probably did some things we didn't want to do. But those guys came out and fought hard. So did our guys, and we made a play at the end. That was the difference. So, any questions?
Sean, the momentum switch, those 4 drives on offense kind of to end regulation and then into overtime. What game plan, what did you attack them with kind of going into OT?
Look, yeah, there wasn't this plan on overtime game plan. It was more about, all right, what are we getting defensively? They played some base to our sub. And so, we were going to be smart, but we were also, when you're into overtime, you're into your normal sequencing, and yet there is some urgency. They won the toss, that's fine. But being able to go down the field and score flips the pressure, and so for the record, it's important to understand that's why you don't go for the 2-point play that you guys were all going to ask me about if it didn't work out in the third quarter. The fourth quarter, you consider it, but a game that's scoring points. Now, fourth quarter, we probably would have went for 2. But look, Bo was fantastic in that final drive. Evan made a great play. A lot of guys stepped up, and then defensively, look, they're tough out. The quarterback was able to make some plays. Our 3rd and long, again, became an issue, and then they converted some 4th downs. But we got the play when we needed it.
Coach, speaking of going for 2, then going for 2 at the end, can you just take us through
that makes sense. Like I told you, I think I felt while they were driving and they moved into the red zone, I kind of felt like that if they scored, they were going to go for 2. And so that wasn't surprising.
What about Nick's play on that?
Yeah, it was big. We took a timeout just to get a look-see. It was kind of one of those Kodak situations where you want to just get a picture to see if they're going to come back and give you the same look. It was a 0 pressure, so Nick's the free rusher. And the irony is the ball hit his club hand. So, but it was a good play by him.
Sean, can you just the emotional swings of just their last drive? You thought the game was over. Down, then there's the holding that takes a touchdown.
It's the first time for me. I don't know how many years as a head coach where I took the quarterback to helmet out, and then there's that flag on the field, and we didn't get the sack, and the interference was called. So that's never happened before. So yeah, there was a lot of back and forth with that game. It's a great game to win. It's a tough one to lose. I just finished telling these guys, I can recall like the journey of a good team season involves games like this, and then you believe you can do it again. But I can remember that 09 season, having a game here. You guys can look it up. We were down a bunch of points and came back and won in overtime, and almost like wanted to sprint in the locker room and shower so they couldn't make us come back. So give those guys credit. Washington, that's a team that's got playoff pedigree now. Dan's done a great job. They were in the postseason last year. They've had some injuries. They were a handful tonight.
Sean, specifically, you lose to walk-offs early. So you're 1-2, and then you go back and you win a bunch of these similar type. What was the key to kind of winning them?
I say it all the time. You have to. It has to come from doing it, and I think you go back to the Philly game. That was. There's always these marks in a season, so you can look at a few.
How do you feel that Alex Singleton did, and then especially his breakup of the pass on Ertz late in the game?
Yeah, listen, on who? On Ertz. Yeah. Look, I think he played well. I have to look at the tape. But I think he played well.
Sean, I think there were 6
6 of 7 on third down and then finished 8 of 17. So what do you see from your defense?
Yeah, two things. And we're the same, but when the quarterback can extend, it becomes tougher, when you're in some of those zones. So we'll look at it. We talked about it just 5 minutes ago, all the things that we got to make sure that we're cleaning up and getting better so it doesn't bite us later. But everyone fought. It was good.
Coach, you mentioned Bo, his play at the end of the first half where he's kind of fallen and throws that to Portland. How impressive was that to see?
Look, end of half, end of game, those critical moments. That was an amazing throw. We were worried his knee was down, but he had good poise, good command, was smart. Yeah, good.
John, do you take it as a good thing you keep winning these, or is the coach part of you wondering?
There's always listen. This is pick a Super Bowl team, and I say that respectfully, and then go look at that season. I mean, look at it honestly, and I can go back through the 6 or 7 playoff teams or real good teams. You begin to build some momentum. Yeah, there's some things you want to clean up, but just take a peek at any one of them. And every once in a while you get one of those teams that just rolls right through it all. But this is a tough league.
Hey, Sean, you had Chris Abrams drain in, I think 4 Riley, 1 drive. Is that what sort of went into that?
That's a good question. I know we were trying to, when Patrick comes back, and then you had these others. It was more about keeping these guys in game form. And I knew that we were going to try to. So it was nothing. It was more about the rotation of just keeping them all going.
Sean, Evan on the 2-minute drive at the end of the second quarter, really getting involved by moving around, finding zones. Was that sort of the vision that you had for him? It's just
look, that vision each week can change, but in a team that's playing zone, generally speaking, in a 2-minute drive, either the Y or the H are going to find these cavities if the receivers aren't underneath the routes. So he was able to do that, and that was an important drive. Like quietly, that 2-minute drill, was the difference between winning and losing.
Coach, how big was it for the offense to respond with a touchdown after each of their touchdowns?
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those frustrating nights running the ball. They did a few things differently by staying in their heavy personnel. Teams have been able to run the ball in sub against them. And to Dan's credit, they didn't allow that. So, we then started checking to some, scattering out of some of our one-back runs to throw it against their base to try to counteract that. But our guys adjusted well. And to your question, I think, Evan, it was one of his better games. The play he made in overtime was huge. The jerk route he ran was outstanding.
Does the trust in your run game utilization change without a veteran like JK in there?
It's nothing to do with the runner.
How did RJ?
Nothing good. We're going to watch the tape, but it trust me, it was just some looks where the evaluation will be on how we blocked it and then the scheme relative to what we were seeing defensively. The runners were good.
The things you're talking about, building on themselves in games like this and the confidence, is that something you feel, you sense as you get into a situation like tonight? Can you feel it on the sideline?
Yeah, we began feeling it a long time ago, but when you get on a streak, yeah. I mean, generally when you have a good team, you win how many games in a row at some point. And when you win 9 in a row and then convert that to baseball or basketball, you guys do the math. What would it be? It's like 45 games. So it's a lot. And so you do begin to believe in it's going to happen. But there can't be that false belief. I mean, there has to be that preparation and the corrections so that the next week is better.
Sean, what was the locker room like after the game? Was it wild celebration or a feeling?
No, it was loud.
It
was loud. No. We don't escape. We won. We won. And so we won a close game in overtime, but it was, loud, smoky, because we have a smoke machine, loud because we have a sound machine, all the above.
Sean, you mentioned getting a look, taking that time out before the two-pointer. But how much does that help just kind of settle the defense down?
Well, it also, we just, every once in a while, we call it a Kodak situation where you have a timeout. The game's going to end, so call the timeout, regroup, collect your thoughts. Vance did a great job changing a call up, and it was the right call.
Bo converted a lot of third and longs with his arm, with his legs. How have you seen him mature in those kind of crucial?
He's just one of those guys. One of the things that we really valued on tape was the foot athlete and the throws that he can make from some unusual positions. So he played well in a dirty pocket in college. Meaning, in our game, it's going to be noisy sometimes, and so that you're seeing some of that carry over. You're seeing his confidence carry over, and he's just getting better and better, and we're operating better. Yeah.
The defensive call you just mentioned, you changed for the 2-point. Did you end up getting the play from them that you expected and you made a change?
Well, look, the challenge in those plays are design QB runs, which we were concerned with. And so some of your zone calls, if you will, at the 2-yard line. And so we went from one pressure to another. The initial call that we had was a zone call, and we felt like this was going to be a design. So we quick called a timeout. And then Vance and his staff did a great job of coming up, with the correct call. It's obviously the correct call when it works. But there's going to be a free rusher if you pressure the way we did. And you don't know like who's going to be the free rusher because the protection might. And so they left Nick free, and the timing and everything was great.
Sean, you talked about it this week, but at this point, is the 1 seed realistic in your mind?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the silliest question of the night. I mean, it's the silliest question of the night. We're competing for it, but certainly we respect the other teams in our conference, but certainly we're competing for it.